Welcome to another episode of Everyday Badassery. I'm your host, Christine Lozada. This is a podcast meant to inspire you to be just 1% more badass today than you were yesterday. And if I'm honest, I gathered my 1% from today's conversation with someone I have a lot of respect for. She's someone who I have been watching on social media, has always just so authentically been herself. And every time I meet up with her, I'm just so wowed by her energy and how she truly shows up as her. And one of the things that I think is really cool is that she's highly creative. And yet she has tackled new gadgets, drones, 360 cameras, content creation in general, and just owned it. And one of the things that we talk about though, because a lot of people, ask like, oh, I want to try that, but I'm scared. I don't know where to start, whether it's content creation or anything in life. And one of the ways in which we talk about it is how in the same way that she and I are both athletes and we both play sports, it's all about practice and repetition and not necessarily going after the big thing first, but what are the small ways that you can practice, the things that you can take a small chunk of and then figure out a way that you can, in an accessible way for you, practice that daily or at whatever cadence is right for you. I need not say more. This lady's badass. Let's talk to her. Meet Trizzy.
What's up, everybody? I'm Trizzy at TrizziInc. You can follow me on Twitter, aka X nowadays. Instagram. I have a YouTube channel with my lovely partner. You can find us on YouTube as Maui and Trizzy. And I'm also one half of a travel podcast called Ticket to Anywhere Podcast.
Which is a fantastic travel podcast. You got to check that out. All of that info will be in the show notes below. But I've had the chance to meet and create with you in person a couple times.
I'm thinking not enough.
Not enough. Yeah, that's definitely a fact. But one of the things I have actually, there's a lot of things I have a lot of RESPCT for you about. I'm not going to sing. Actually, have you heard me sing before?
No, I would love to.
No, it's bad. If you'd like to go deaf, then maybe we can consider a singing thing. But anyway, one of the things I have a ton of respect for you about is your ability to just get out there and do the damn things. Nowadays you're flying a drone. Love to see you out there with a drone. Nowadays you're rocking a 360 camera. Love seeing you creating 360 shots, super creative. And one of the things that people always tell me is, oh my gosh, Christine, I want to become a content creator, or I want to try not even content creation. I want to try this drone or 360 camera or something when I go on my next trip, but I'm not like you. I don't have all of this background and experience going to school and all the things. And I'm well, neither do I. I started during the pandemic and learned how to do all of these things by either trial and error or watching videos on YouTube. And I've seen you pick up these skills super fast. I would actually, tell us a little bit about your background in content creation, because you have a little bit more background than I do.
I basically, in middle school, always wanted to pick up a camera to just film the memories around me. I grew up playing basketball, so I had a really tight knit of friends who I am still close with, and just capture, my games growing up, capture just random birthday parties that I've had, and even making my friends do music videos with me. So it was content creation back in the day that nobody knows about, because there's no way they're going to approve of me posting all that online.
Actually, do you even remember what were you shooting with in those days?
I was rocking a Sony camcorder. I don't remember the model, but it was Sony. Everything was Sony. Even till now, I'm rocking the Sony Alpha 7 III.
That's fancy.
I love that baby.
Dang. Actually, tell me what your current... Okay, so you kind of dabbled in things as a child, and how did that translate into your adulthood?
So it's weird because I've never wanted to go that path of videography and photography. It came to me, and I think a lot of people realize it's all about timing. What happened was my focus was on the music industry, getting into the A&R side, which is seeking talent, finding the right producer for this artist. And when I did my internship in college with Sony Music, I realized that's not the path for me. Maybe I'll just stick with marketing. That is what I went to college for. And after I graduated, I was unemployed for about 6 months, and I found this really crappy marketing job with a motorcycle windshield company. And I was like, this is whack. This is so not me.
Just to make sure I've heard that correctly, motorcycle windshield. Is that correct? Oh, that's
motorcycle
sexy.
windshield. And, I grew up in Seattle. I moved to LA for the music industry. And my mom was like, if you're not even finding a career there, then just move back home to Seattle, save some money until you can find a career. So that was the plan. 2 days before my going away party, Sony Music, who I currently work for now, calls me, offers me a job in their video department. And the rest is history. And here I am creating content on outside of my job as well, outside of the music industry. And so it just kind of came to me naturally. And with years of practice since doing it since middle school, it is just, it's within me. It comes natural to me.
Actually, before we started recording, you were talking to me about how you have not been flying your drone very far away from you because you're afraid of all the normal things that people are afraid of when they fly their drone a little bit too far, namely not being able to see it in the sky anymore and fly back to you.
Yeah.
Probably. But how has that background in videography for Sony Music translated over to some of these newer, I don't really want to call them gadgets, but gadgets, like basically the drone and the 360. Is it something where it was good background for you to have that to be able to start making stuff with drone and 360, or not really?
Yeah, totally. Like your vision, it helps. However, with the 360 camera versus the drone, it's a little different. The drone it's not in my hand. I just have the controller. So that is a part that I still have to get used to. But with the 360, oh my gosh, that camera saves lives. I feel like anybody who is shy, anybody who wants to be discreet with their content, that's the perfect camera for you. It captures all around you, and all you have to worry about is editing, which the 360 app gives you tutorials on how to edit. So even if you're not a good editor, or you feel like I don't have that skill set, there's, like you said, YouTube, and the 360 app itself teaches you how to keyframe, and sometimes it does the job for you. You just pick on a specific template and it'll create a video for you.
Facts. You also just uncovered my secret, which is why I shoot so frequently with the 360. I don't know if you know this. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. And I'm actually quite shy. I actually grew up a very, very, I was such a quiet child that my report cards from my elementary and middle school teachers would always be like, does Christine have a problem? She's too quiet. Because I was taught to be very quiet as a child, to not make a scene. Because, my parents moved from another country and they wanted us to assimilate and just fit in with everybody. And so I was very quiet and very bullied as a child. So I was very shy. And that, as I've stepped into the total weirdo I am now as an adult and a content creator, currently rocking a neon pickleball hat on this call. I still have moments though where I don't want to be in public talking to a camera, especially a big camera with a mic set up to it and all the things. Sometimes I want to be discreet, get the shots, and then do on my own time talking to my camera when there aren't people around, and then mix all those shots together. The 360 helps me to get what I need, but still serve the introvert that's in me and be able to get the shots that I'm able to use later that I'm too shy to get using something else. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of tutorials that are out there that are free on YouTube. And there's also a lot of help that the app gives. And so many people are intimidated by all of these things. For me, I'm listening to your background with Sony Music and videography. And And I will admit, like the skill that you are bringing forward, which you have the vision, right? Because too frequently new content creators will go out there and be like, I shot everything. Now I got to figure out what the story is and what I should do with it. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
have fun for the rest of your life trying to figure that
Mm-hmm.
out. That which is how I shot before. And
Yeah.
now I go into it not just with the vision on the story, but now like, and it took time, right? I had to practice with all of the things where not only do I have a vision of what the story is or an idea of what the story might be, but then it helps me to back into which shots are needed. And then like, how can we have fun with it at the same time?
Exactly. Yeah. And some people think shot list is another added step, but it helps so much. And you can have a shot list and enjoy your time like on vacation or something. So
Actually, say more, because I know, for example, you recently went to Bali. And also, by the way, Trizzy has some really cool YouTube videos about some of her trips that she's taken recently. So I will link those in the show notes below. But like, walk us through your process on like what some of those have looked like, for example, on like, I don't know, how you have your vision and then shot list and then
right.
create those
Yeah.
videos.
I mean, it's still a work in progress for me to ace everything on top of, juggling the podcast, YouTube channel, full-time job. But I just usually like angles, right? So my shot list is basically just trying to capture, if I'm doing a boba content, then I need to capture a cup being picked up. I need to capture the pour down. I need to capture maybe like a above angle of the cup with the lid covering it. Just playing around with it. And then if there's voiceovers, you could voiceover afterwards, write a script about it. Make sure the first, 3 to 5 seconds is the catchy attention getter. But it's a work in progress and it's a lot of work, but it's fun. Once you get to the editing phase, you have an idea. So you're not scrambling through the hundreds of files that you're looking through, and you know where it's going to be at with this music, cutting to this beat, and it just helps speeds up the process. Even though it gives you have to put a lot more energy into it, the editing part is always the hard part for people. Once you get your shot list, the editing will be easy.
I agree
Trust
with
me.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. The editing will be easy because you have the shots and you're not trying to figure out what the story is.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a recent pickleball content that I made, and it was literally just a quick story that I made for a brand that was like 45 seconds long, around like what is it about pickleball that helps you connect with people while traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like I wrote the script. Like I wrote the script and I knew I wanted my own face in it talking for a little bit. And then the rest would be kind of used as voiceover with
Yeah.
shots. And I just thought of it in terms of like, too many people like make it too complicated, right? I need a shot of me walking onto the court, a shot of what the courts look like and who's there. And then, some inserted shots of me talking to the camera, but I'm not going to memorize that script. That's hard. And
Yeah.
so my crutch for that oftentimes is I might be talking to my phone, but I might have on a separate phone. Usually I'm like, okay, can I borrow your phone really quick? And I'll like airdrop an iPhone note to them. And I will wear sunglasses and I will read it. I'll read
Nice.
the script, but like try to like look toward the other camera, like have my
Yeah.
face facing the other camera, so it doesn't look like I'm reading a script, and then just do my best to like read the script in a voice that's like, sounds like you're talking to somebody, and is a little bit more upbeat. And then I'm just thinking through it, like, what are all the shots that are needed? What's the closing shot? What are like the shots in
Yep.
between? And then going back to like, what are the unique angles to get? Like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. And even if your angles are not unique at first, as long as it's a good story, that's good enough. As long as the content is either interesting, educating someone, is entertaining, whatever it is, it's fine. So actually, hold on. What would your encouragement be for someone who's like, I want to get started, but like, I feel intimidated by all the things. I don't know where to start. Like, what would be the one thing that you would suggest?
Repetition practice. Start small. Maybe if you want to do like a 6-second reel, you don't have to do that 30-second reel or a minute-second reel, or a minute-second, a new word, or a minute reel.
It's a good amount of time.
Right. To jump into it, like start small. The first 5 seconds, or your first reel could be 5 seconds, and you could just say, you could just practice a script and maybe capture 3 different angles and then just post it all together. And then once you keep practicing, that 5-second reel is going to turn into an 8-second reel. That 8-second reel is going to turn into 15 to 30-second, 30-second to a minute. And then who knows, you're going to be doing your own YouTube channel. That's like a 5-minute long video. So it's just repetition and practice.
And you got to start small. I love that. Like, it doesn't have to be this big jump into the deep end in this complicated thing. One of the things I always suggest is, because a lot of people get stuck in the like, well, I don't know what the first shot should be. And it's like, well, then why don't you practice by copying someone else and doing your version of that? If you saw something cool that was out there, try your version of that. And you can always delete it. Like, that's the beauty of content creation now. Like, is you can delete it. Like, it ain't taken. You don't have to bring your roll of film to Costco and hope like prints are on sale for 8 cents a piece, and then come back. What was it, like 4 days later to pick it up, and you can see someone else's like photos printing through, and you're just like, hey, I think that's my neighbor. Oh wow, those are some weird photos that are being printed through. You know what I mean? It's not like that anymore. You literally throw away 90% of those terrible photos where you have to go buy a photo album for it. Anyway, we don't have to deal with that anymore. We can just delete it. And I mean, if anything, you wasted a couple minutes of your time, not a big deal.
But it's towards your practice. And I think that's what's important. Like, even if you don't like the piece that you created, you developed your skills. Like, you made progress on what the end goal is.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to bring this conversation to something that I love seeing you practice on all the time. But actually, hold on, I got to do a quick aside. I don't know if you know this, but one of the things I force myself, I don't want to say force, I see it as like a daily creative project. I always have Instagram stories live every 24 hours. Like, it is very rare that I will go dark. I might go dark on Instagram stories like 4 days a year. Like, it is very, very rare.
It's true. Yeah. I see it.
Well, the reason why I do that is not because, like, most people are like, oh, you're so good at being consistent and da, da, da. And it's like, no, in the same way that your bicep needs to be worked on every day by picking up that glass of champagne and lifting that heavy glass to your lips to build that muscle. Like, it's same thing with creativity. It will go away if you're not constantly working on and flexing that muscle. And for me, Instagram stories is such a good way to practice telling a story and practicing in your version for a Instagram reel or a TikTok video, the first 3 to 5 seconds needs to be the most interesting. It's no different when you're doing an Instagram story. Your first couple frames need to really grab someone in before you get into the meat of things, and then tell the story, have the story arc and some kind of closure, right? And practicing that every day gives me confidence when I go create. I just created a 6-series video series in which I had no confidence in what I was creating, but was like, nah, I know how to tell a good story. And that practice in something as simple as Instagram stories, which goes away after 24 hours, helped to give me that confidence, because I had been flexing that muscle every day for years at this point now. Just wild to think about.
Wow, that's a preach with that. I didn't even think about IG stories as being like a small practice. That is perfect. Yeah.
It's such a low barrier to entry. And that's another thing, right? Like, there are some times where I'll post something and I'll be like, oh wow, that was actually, this very, very rarely happens now, but I'll just be like, oh, that's really silly. Like, that's just too weird. And I'll just delete it immediately. It goes back to we didn't have to go to Costco to print the thing. Right. Yeah. Nor do we have to buy a billboard to have, hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people see something that you've created. We have these free platforms, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of amazing, let me pivot really quick, because one of the things I have a ton of respect for you for, And I see this in how you practice and play with your content creation, which is yourself as an athlete and how you bring that athlete mindset into your day to day. So actually, let me start with this. What is your sport and when did that start?
My sport is basketball, and it started when I joined the rec league. I was 9 years old, so entering like the 5th grade.
It's like last
And
year, right?
yeah,
You're like, no, only if we're on that time frame of the minute second thing.
right, yeah. So from there, I started off as a very selfish player. My athlete mindset was very solo dolo about me, right?
Mm.
Before I joined the rec league, I would just play basketball in my backyard and only learn the skill set of being the point guard, being the main shooter. So when I joined the team, it wasn't until maybe like 3 years in, I started developing the importance of teamwork, of community, of group, and support system, right? And my team, I was very spoiled. We went the first 3 years of being undefeated, back to back to back champions, and through maybe middle of my high school year, that's when I stopped playing competitively. And but I always carried some sort of that athlete mindset with me in everything else that I did. I was on the swim team for 1 year. I just wanted to try it out.
How did that go for you?
It was okay. I was like the fastest, slowest person, if that makes sense.
Absolutely not. When I tried out for water polo, I more or less drowned in the pool. It was great.
That's a different beast. That's a different beast. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I'm not a swimmer, which means later in life when I tried being a triathlete, the swim was gnarly. The swim was gnarly
Ooh,
for me.
okay.
By
Wow.
gnarly, I mean gross. Um, but this, I mean, it also goes back to I am a firm believer in the phrase, we are a reflection of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And for different parts of your journey or different things you're working on in life, whatever that might be, who do you need to be surrounding yourself with for that moment?
Yes. My partner, my sister, my mom, my cousin, and the last one is tricky because it's like it interchanges. You see, my thumb is just moving. So it
It is
interchanges between having a good, if I'm focused on my podcast, then I need Leah, my co-hustler. If it's something with like my career, then I need my friend, one of my best friends, Jessica.
Mm.
And if it's something relating to basketball, then I turn to maybe my dad, who basically was like coaching and mentoring me.
Yes. Like what I love what I'm hearing right now is that it's not a like, like who are my people or like, it's like you knew immediately and you knew immediately for those different aspects of your life. And I think it's so important that everybody has that for themselves and are able to define who that support circle is. Because another thing that I see too often is too many people giving themselves and their time too openly to too many people.
Yes.
And life is too short to not be loving the people that you love hard and giving them the time, effort, and energy that they deserve, but also being able to free up time for yourself with the time, effort, and energy you selfishly deserve by protecting your time and your energy from people that should not be in that inner circle. And it's not supposed to be this whole like, oh, I'm not going to give anyone my time, but respecting your own time and your own energy is really important to me. Energy conservation for me is everything. People are always like, oh my God, Christine, you have so much energy. Like, how do you do it all the time? And it's like, because there are a lot of things I specifically do not do. where there's a lot of things I will specifically not give my energy to. All right. So we talked about basketball. And actually, I'm curious because it's always a good feeling to be undefeated for quite some time.
You know,
But, I still am to this day. Yeah, right. I'm curious how you've brought that mentality into your day to day, especially when it comes to like the support and the being there for others and the teamwork and along those lines.
Yeah. So I want to go back to drones, and I've held out from buying a drone for so many years. It's always been in the back of my head, like, go get the drone, go fly it. And when I met you, I was like, okay, I'm a little bit more motivated now to get a drone, but I still held out. But there was something in me that was just like, just go get that damn thing. Like, go get it. So I got the Mini 3.
Such a good drone.
Yeah, the Mini 3. And with the drone and that mindset that I had with basketball, I knew I could not learn the drone on my own. So usually what I would do, let's say with my Sony camera, with my Insta360, I would just shoot things on my own, learn it by myself. But with the drone, it was a different animal. I knew I had to turn to, your community, the drone party on the Facebook group. I had to ask people in different communities as well, just like their experience as a beginner. I had so much anxiety. I already crashed my drone, right? So I had to get that thing fixed.
Can we pause really quick and talk about this crash? You've told me a little bit about it.
It was really dumb. It was dumb. It was just, I was like,
well, if you were to tell me I crashed my drone and it was a really smart way to crash it, I'm really proud of the way I crashed it, I'd be like, okay, this is not correct. Of course it's dumb. But we all do dumb things. And also flying a drone is not like anything we do on a normal daily basis.
Yeah.
Like, what did you do today that's similar to flying a drone?
Yeah. So what happened with my freaking drone was I took it was actually like a 3 incident type of situation. The first one, we went to a park that allowed flying, and I wanted to take BTS. So I had my Insta360 tripod somewhat close to the launching area. So as I launched my drone, a big gust of wind came and it hit the tripod of my Insta360. And luckily nothing was hurt, or that I could see that it was hurt. So internally, what I learned later on, because on July 4th, I tried to fly it off of my balcony, and for some reason, my drone just wasn't, it wasn't listening to me. So there was something off. I saw it drifting a lot too. So it kept drifting and drifting, and then it hit the back of my building and it crashed maybe 30 feet onto the ground. And
do you know why that happened that time?
I did not know. So
do you know now?
I do know now.
Okay, sorry.
What happened was, because I took it in for diagnostic and repair, and the guy said to me that because of the wind, the gust, when it hit, one of the arms was, damaged, and I couldn't see it. And the drone app didn't tell me, the DJI app didn't tell me. I don't think it detects any damages to the arm like that. I'm not 100% sure. So I flew it thinking that it was okay, but later on I found out the arm was already busted from the gust of wind that hit my tripod.
Is there a third story, or is that the end of the story?
The third story was the third one goes in between those 2 stories.
Okay.
It was the same day, July 4th, and I was like, my house has high ceilings. Let me fly in my home. And I tried to get it onto like the stairs, like going upstairs, but it kept hitting the wall. And I think it messed up the propellers. And I don't know if that agitated more of the arm injury that it already had that I couldn't see. So that's that. All 3 stories.
Okay, hold on. Can I just first of all, I have to say, everything that's happened is totally normal. Like those are all normal things where
Mhm.
I'm not listening. Well, I recently had a conversation with someone who crashed her drone into a tree for the fifth time, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not going to say her name. Hey, did you look up before you launched your drone in the same way you look left and right when you cross the street?" She's like, "No, I forgot again, and I just launched it directly into the tree." And I'm like, "Okay, that's not good. Like, that's bad, and that's not a very smart thing. You need to look in the same way before you cross the street, and please make sure you look left and right. Like, don't get run over by a car, and don't fly your drone into or launch your drone into a tree."
Mhm.
So, for what I have to say for your situation, it's normal. When you launch your drone, you probably launch it and then like let it hover, and then
Yeah.
you start to fly it. Something that I established after having similar situations to you is my new best practices. As soon as I launch my drone, I send it.
Oh,
Like
you just
I have I have the left stick up to which makes it gain altitude or go up, and
mhm.
I blast it. And
Okay.
that best practice for me has helped with things like when you're on the ground, there's a lot of things that are around you, but once you get above them, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Or things like if it's windy, your drone can easily be pushed into something. Or if you're in a tight space, your drone might accidentally try to bounce or avoid an obstacle that's in front of it and accidentally go into something else behind it. Or it
Mhm.
just prevents things. Or if you're flying off a boat, it prevents it from not jumping into the water on accident or something like that by just
Yeah.
sending it. So sending it. The second thing is anytime you've crashed your drone, you need to recalibrate it. And so
Oh.
recalibrating it is basically, for those who are not familiar with this, it's something where you basically are twirling your drone horizontally and vertically. And what it does is it allows the drone to understand and give itself proprioception. Like, where am I in time and space? Because when you don't do it, it will cause your drone to drift a little bit.
Mm.
And another thing, and this is very normal, and I was lazy one time when I first started flying my drone. I was like, it's hot outside. I'm just going to launch it inside. When you launch it inside, it's the same thing as trying to take a phone call inside of a parking garage. And you're like, hello? Like, can you hear me? Right? There's too much other things that are intercepting its GPS signal. And so when it's trying to find that GPS, it causes it to drift yet again.
Okay.
And the last thing I'll say is sometimes when the arm has an issue, because um, I flew my drone somewhere I probably shouldn't have flown my drone on a 40-mile-per-hour wind day near the cliffs of Ethiopia, where there were both hyenas and monkeys
Ooh.
on the scene. And I was on a bicycle, I was not going to get away quickly if any of those hyenas or monkeys, they were not friendly monkeys, had something to say to me. But I flew my drone too close to the edge, and wind patterns near the edge are gnarly. And so my drone, as soon as it went over the edge, the wind pattern grabbed it and
Mm.
just started pushing it down. And I had it in full speed trying to push it back up. And I'm just watching it go down. And this is like a 9,000-foot cliffside.
Ooh.
And there's no way I'm getting it if it goes down there. And so I just force it to go into the side of the mountain so I can kind of climb down and grab it.
Gotcha.
And when it has a hurt arm, that arm will beep. Like anytime you
Oh.
turn it on, it'll normally beep, but it depends on the type of damage that it has.
Mm.
I flew that thing with a beeping arm for 2 more years. It was great. I never went and got that thing diagnosed. It was fine. I'm like,
You're
you're fine.
such a gangster.
Just dust it off. Okay, wow. So we hold on. We just went down the whole drone path for a second, which these are things, right? Like
Yeah.
you have what, close to 50 flights
Mhm.
or so. Actually, can you guess how many flights I have?
I want to say you probably got like 10,000.
11 flights since 2023. Or sorry, 2020. If I do the math on 10,000, I've been flying 500 times a day. No, I know that I'm closing in on the 2,000 mark.
Okay.
But that's a lot of repetition,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of practice. And these are
Mhm.
not things I figure it out on day one or day two. But going back to like what we were talking about with basketball, right? it takes that kind of an athlete mindset to be like, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
And I just need to put in more reps. I just need to put in more time. And the same thing that I do with my Instagram stories. I just need to, at a very low, easy level, practice all the time so that that muscle either stays strong or sometimes grows a little bit. Right. And you just got to bring that forward.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so let me pivot one more time. Because one of the other things I see you do that I think is really badass is you're one of the only people I see who actually works out on vacation.
Oh, hell yeah.
I just call it a vacation. Sometimes it's vacation. Sometimes it's traveling. A lot of people don't understand the difference. How and why do you do that?
Well, because I don't like to be thrown off my schedule. And I think because of that athletic mindset too of constantly, you know, waking up, do practice, go to school, practice again, eat healthy, and then do your own workout. Like I just grew up doing that. And, you know, I've ran a few marathons, traveled for a few marathons as well in the past. And I don't know, it's just always been a routine. And if I don't take that on trips with me, I come back home and it's probably going to take me longer to get back on the routine. So I rather just like keep with it. So when I come back, my body physicality isn't jet lagged. And honestly, I think yoga helps with jet lag too.
I actually think that takes a lot of knowing of oneself
Mm-hmm.
to know that you need that, because I don't necessarily, well, I definitely see the discipline in doing that, but I don't necessarily see it as something where it's like, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this and I'm forcing myself. But rather the consequence on the other side, if you don't do the normal routine, it doesn't feel good or it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I take that mentality now into dieting, because a lot of people are like, oh, you must have such a strict diet. And I'm like, no, I woke up this morning, ate some ice cream, and then had a pound of bacon. which actually this morning was half a pound of bacon, followed by a mimosa with no orange juice. And yes, it is Wednesday. But all I did was Pilates today, and you don't really need to be perfectly sober for Pilates. This is a whole other conversation. But for me, it was around, I had too much discipline in the past around my diet. I don't know if you know this, I used to be in the fitness industry. I knew
that. Yeah.
I used to teach group exercise classes for almost 20 years.
That's fun.
But I had a good chunk of time in which I became like so body conscious, and like I ate a zero fat diet, like literally zero fat in my diet. And at that time, it was really sad. At that time, you could literally grab a piece of my hair or a little chunk of my hair and just give it a little tug. And it was so frail that it would just break off.
Wow.
Which is wild, because now I have like super long, crazy long hair that's like really healthy. And at that time in my life, I just realized, like, even though I may have looked the way, quote unquote, I wanted to look at that time, it wasn't worth it for how I felt all the time. And realized that if I gave myself more leeway, on the opposite end, right, of like doing a good fitness routine, like it made me feel better. And so now I find a better balance of eating and exercise that just feels more right. And there's never going to be a perfect balance all the time. But I also see you taking that mentality into how you work and how you interact with the world. And I'm actually curious, your reaction to that.
That, you know, when you said you were a introvert, I am the same way. However, I grew up, we're kind of opposite, like we flipped or something. I grew up extroverted. I want to be the center of attention. Yeah. I would, during the halftime of basketball games, I would go in the center court, do a dance, and just be very obnoxious and look at me, look at me. But now I'm like, no, don't look at me.
What changed for you?
I don't know. I think I just realized that when I'm extroverted, it's not a to me, it didn't feel comfortable. Like I felt like I was forcing something too much. And it was forcing like a negative, like, please like me, rather than me being like extroverted for myself. It was being extroverted for the people around me. Like, I want you to like me, so I'll do this dance and whatever. I want you to like me, so I'll take this shot. Like, no, that wasn't for me, I felt like. But I
That's a really
realized,
interesting learning. That's
yeah,
important to know that about yourself. Yeah.
right. And nowadays, I just want to do things for myself. And every once in a while, I'll, look out for my people and do things for them
Yeah.
without that, I don't know, that obnoxiousness or something.
I'm like, do you have any content of these days? I'd like to watch it.
Oh my gosh. Leah would tell you, we'll probably pull some Facebook stuff up for
Oh,
you.
that's really funny. Well, for me, I think about two things. So one, like when you're talking about basketball, before for you was like very solo, and then it became like, you really started to focus on like team and like supporting each other and camaraderie. I think about how as I have journeyed through life and the older I get, the more I want to give back, but give back to the people I really care about, because that truly fills my soul. Kind of in
Mm-hmm.
the same way that, I didn't want to be like, well, it's dumb that you did that with your drone, but rather be like, actually, that's really quite normal, because it is. And
Mm-hmm.
like share some wealth with you around like
Yeah.
why that's happening, so that, you can better your practice in the future with your craft with drones. And I see this so often with the way in which I either spend my time giving myself to others within, right, what fills my soul, or within my circle, or within what the topics I really care about. Right? It actually goes back to like this podcast, right? The
Yeah.
whole premise behind this podcast. And actually, you're gonna laugh at me, especially as a podcaster. I turn off ad revenue on this
Okay.
podcast. I
Yeah.
care more about having someone have a seamless listening experience
Love it.
than me trying to make money off of this podcast. Because truly in my soul, what I want is someone to hear something that they can relate to or attach to, and that really will inspire them to step outside their comfort zone by just 1%, just a
I
little
love
bit
that.
more.
I love that. And before I used to listen to Jay Shetty's podcast, but nowadays I don't really, because it's just full of ads,
Mm.
like 3-minute ads, pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll. And I'm like, oh
Oh,
my
wow.
gosh, it doesn't feel authentic anymore. So thank you, Christine, for allowing us to really talk authentically, raw, and just be ourselves, and let
Yeah.
other people know that it's okay to make mistakes and grow from it, develop skills from it.
We all start somewhere,
Yeah.
right? We all start somewhere. I actually like bringing it back to sports, because one of the things I've recently picked up is playing pickleball. And
Love it.
what's interesting to me about pickleball is that it cannot be a solo or simply about you or working on just your own game. Because for those who are not familiar with the sport, you play in doubles. And it's very traditional that you are constantly switching up your partner. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of like when you go into a salsa club, like you're dancing with everybody. Like when
Yeah.
you go to show up at the courts, you're trying to play with the person you haven't played with yet.
Mm-hmm.
To see how the game goes, because every game will be different. And so much of what I've been focused on lately is how can I improve my game in a way that really supports my partner to play their best game. Because like especially when you get into pickleball strategy, which we will not talk about today, it really is about like where you are positioned on the court and how you are hitting it to set yourself and your partner up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all I've been focused on lately is support, because like really that's really it comes down to, right? Like
Yeah.
connecting with people, supporting one another,
Yeah.
and giving to the things that you really give a lot of F's about.
Yeah.
Oh, we brought it to a lot of places today. Tell
Yeah.
me, I think I asked this question on this podcast, but
Yeah.
answer it in any way you would like to. Are you a badass? Why or why not?
All right. When it comes to bugs, I am not a badass. When it comes to lizards, I am not a badass. But when it comes to basketball, creating content, taking photos, taking videos, editing them, yeah, I want to call myself a badass. Like, my family enjoys it, my partner enjoys it. I love it, and the support system, whoever wants to follow me and, you know, because of my craft, they enjoy it, and that's all that matters. So, yeah, badassery, y'all.
Hell yeah. I love that answer. I think, well, hold on, I got to add on to this. One of the reasons why I think you are such a badass is because you authentically show up to the world as yourself. And every time I either watch your content and consume your content or see you in person or get to chat with you like this, I'm just like, dude, Trizzy's doing Trizzy so fucking hard. I love
Oh,
that.
I love that. Thank you. And you know, this morning or the past few weeks, I've just been in a rut. And this interview, the fact that you asked me to be on the podcast, I was like, whoa, maybe I do have that in me. So it's kind of like an affirmation that I told myself before this podcast. Like, you know, Christine thinks I'm a badass. Hell yeah, I'm a badass. Why
Hell
not?
yeah, you are. Wait, give us a tip. What's one thing you're doing to get out of that rut?
I am taking my breathing exercises more often than usual, right? So breath work is very important to me. And every so often, I'll do it once a day. But in this rut, you need to do it a little bit extra, you know, put
It's
in
powerful.
overtime. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
One of the
And just
things that
making sure I don't exhaust myself too. And I think
energy conservation is everything.
that's what it is, girl. You
My,
know it.
I have, here's my favorite one. Um, I played the song Earth, Wind and Fire September at full blast and I jump on the bed.
Oh, ooh, hell yeah. We gotta see that content.
It would exist out there. Oh, maybe I'll make a new freshie
Believe it.
though. Maybe
I
I'll make a
believe
new
it.
freshie. And remind us, where can people find you?
You guys could find me, Trizzy, at TrizZinc, TrizZinc, on Instagram, on X, and on YouTube. You can find me at Maui and Trizzy. And for my travel podcasts, check out Ticket Number 2 Anywhere Podcasts.
Hell
Appreciate
yeah.
you guys. Oh, and sorry, my website, TrizInc.com.
All of that will be linked in the show notes below. So make sure you check it out. Thank you for doing this with me.
No, thank you, Christine. Thank you for everything, for real.
I think you can see why I love this woman and why I think she's a badass. Make sure you connect with her. All of her info will be in the show notes below. Her podcast with Leah is awesome. Leah has also been on this podcast as well. I will link that in the show notes as well. But if you felt something today, yo, tell us. Connect with me. Connect with Trizzy. Leave a positive review. It really does help to distribute this to more people. And in the meantime, yo, go try something new, practice it, work on it just a little bit at a time. Those small 1% will lead to our big badass moments in life. Go forth, be badass. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.